When you think of Newcastle, you think of famous double acts. You think of Kevin Keegan and the Rant, Shearer and Ferdinand, Kit Spire and the advertising boarding, Anton Deck. But it only took one villain to run rampant over the tomb at the weekend. This is Talk of the Trinity.
Hello and welcome to this latest edition of Checks Notes. It is still Talk of the Trinity podcast. My co-host, Mr. Trinity himself, Will Forrest, has got a little confused or excited by the start of the new cricket season. You'll see if you're watching our YouTube video, he's sporting a very delightful Birmingham Bears cap. Hashtag rather be a bear than a pair. But the rest of us are still basking in the euphoria of events at Villa Park on Saturday afternoon just gone that we will be coming to you about very, very shortly. But in the meantime, you've already know what's going to be happening because you have been checking out our Twitter page at Talk Trinity, whereby we have been keeping you up to date with all the latest Villa news, views. We've had a couple of polls on there today on the day of recording, which you'll be able to amateur sleuth figure out when we're recording this, when you go and have a look. But we will be talking about those later on in the podcast anyway. Our aforementioned YouTube channel, you can watch us in all our visual glory and see what variety of hatwear we have worn, enjoyed, not enjoyed during the course of our recording span. Or if you just like the audio versions, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Google, keep you up to date via our lovely dulcet tones, and we are also on FanHub. But speaking of dulcet brummy tones, they probably went up a couple of levels on Saturday just gone at Villa Park. 12:45 kickoff when Newcastle United came to town, and you can have the most in-depth analysis, which we will come on to in a moment. But sometimes football can be described in simple terms. And for me, I don't know if you share this view, Will, I've got nothing further to say than we gave them a good pasting.
I'd probably articulate a little bit further and say we smashed them, we stacked them, and we ended up on top. You know, my days, what a performance. 3-0 straight from the off. Ollie Watkins with that effort that hit the post, and you knew we meant business.
Yep.
And Emery got it right, didn't he? You know, his tactics again was spot on.
Yep.
He worst thing for Newcastle was the fact that how well they've been doing recently. Emery's obviously been watching them, as he does with every team, and you'd hope he does as a coach.
Well, yeah,
but he got that game plan spot on. I know we were discussing Dendoncker or Traore, but he gave the birthday boy the start in the centre of midfield. The first 90 minutes he's played since the 3-1 win over Man United. And the performance as a whole was just absolutely fantastic. There's so many positives from it, from the defending of Tyrone Mings, the marauding runs of Alex Moreno. What a signing he is. Yep. John McGinn, Emi Buendia, Jacob Ramsey, that midfield trio. And then, of course, the man of the hour. And I don't promise this, but it's highly unlikely that I'll ever call you Wally Watkins again. Ollie Watkins, my days, what a rich vein of form he is in at the moment. And do you know the nicest thing about it all is, Baz, is that we're getting the recognition. We're getting the recognition from people now. I mean, it's nice to go under the radar, but you saw Alan Shearer saying how we absolutely battered Newcastle. You saw Gary Neville saying that we were sensational and he hadn't seen a Villa performance or a Villa Park atmosphere in years that rivaled that one from the other day. And the lads, they went about their business. They got the 3 points, and straight away it's that was nice, but we got Brentford next, and we're focused. We know what the target is. I don't think it's very much a secret as to what the target is from Unai Emery. But we're making waves in this league, and we're hopefully going to crash in on that top 6.
Yeah, I mean, like, so many positives to take out the game. I mean, the only negative, if you really, really want to look for one, is we could have had 6. The pasting could have been bigger, really. But I think in terms of lots of things to pick up on in terms of the game itself, football is fundamentally a simple game. And football can be made to look simple if you have an excellent tactical plan executed as it was intended. And I do feel the performance on Saturday, it looked easy, but the amount of planning that you can see when you look a little deeper went into it, especially you mentioned in terms of the first 30 seconds, the chance Watkins had played through, from the full back, that gap in cutting Newcastle apart. Watching it live, like 2 passes. It wasn't just the ball from the kickoff going, yeah, well, hoof it here. Oh my God, we're on goal. What's going on? I mean, that was planned. And we mentioned Moreno. That was the coming out party in terms of Moreno, because you can see in terms of lots of in-depth stats analysis on Villa under Unai Emery. One of the noticeable things is, and we've touched upon it previously, how high Moreno goes up the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Emery said he was brought for his attacking prowess rather than the defensive side of things, with the idea going forward, we know what we're getting and we want it. We can work on the defensive side later on, or we can, as with Ashley Young on Saturday, he stays further back, so you let Moreno go forward, get to the touchline, and it's chance creation. In terms of if we would have put away, not just on Saturday, some of the chances that he's created, he'd have about 15, maybe not 15 assists, but 2 big chances a game that he's created. And it's a feeling we touched upon before in terms of Watkins missed a chance after half a minute. Maybe previously you'd be head in the hands thinking, oh God, it's going to be another one of those days for Watkins, isn't it? Now's his chance. Now he's the confidence of the fans and of the player thinking, yeah, there'll be another chance along soon. Obviously you'd rather score that one, but brush it off. I think that's partly tactical plan played to him now. I mean, in terms of it was a sensitive time for you when we sold Danny Ings, because a lot of the time we'd had Ings and Watkins.
Still not over it.
No, and Ings he scored a few goals for West Ham, but when they were both at Villa, there was always the undercurrent of, can they play in the same team? Do you play them both up front together? Do you put one on the wing? I mean, often when you had that discussion, it was, Watkins, you put him on the wing and you put Ings up front, you have him as the central point. Emery's come in, made Watkins the central point of the attack, sold Ings, I think in part, well, maybe a large part, because that's the way he wants to play. He has more faith in Watkins than Ings. All sorts of reasons you could throw in there, but I'm going to build this game plan around Watkins. And in terms of when you get a new manager, you have those cliches that come in terms of, they're gonna run about more, they're gonna put more effort in, kind of get those. I don't want to say not intangibles, but the ones where they get the crowd on side very quickly without there being any potential long-term benefit. It's just, we're just going to try harder, basically, to sum it up. And that's, trying harder can only take you so far. But in terms of Watkins, listening and watching him play, he runs less. less sprints, less time on the ball, less moving around. But the efficiency, in terms of shots on, I believe it was shots on target or shot conversion. I have had a mind blank. I think it was percentage shots on target of the top 5 leagues in Europe. He has the highest now in terms of this season. So very much less is more. And I think that feeds into the tactical masterclass revolution, whatever word you want to put it under Emre. A perfect example of it's not just run around a bit. There's got to be why you're running around, where you're running to, what you're doing when you you catch that. You get the ball. And I think Saturday, for Watkins in particular, perfectly illustrated that. And I think in terms of, it was the first goal. Was it the first? There's so many Watkins goals. It's hard to keep up. The one where he got the ball in the box, turned, literally, he didn't push. It looked like he just to the defender, no, just get out of my way. He didn't push him, obviously, but it's just like, considering he was 6 yards out with a defender and a goalie, it looked as if he had about half an hour just to turn around, just smack it calmly into there. And he wasn't half a minute. It's just he made it look so easy because of the quality of the pass, the quality of the control, and the quality of him knowing what his game plan is. And I think it was, a near side, he could have had a hat trick. But yeah, it's in terms of, he's just one example of the fantastic tactical revolution that is now, you're saying, getting the credit from the public.
I think the two of the players that we touched upon there, or that we've mentioned, are the two to really feel the benefit the most of this Villa team, and are two that you could say are very much the blood supply. They're not the heartbeat, but they're the blood supply that's getting us up the pitch and getting us further up the league. Ollie Watkins has been phenomenal. There's no other words to describe him apart from scintillating, excellent, awesome, all the best words. He's been incredible. And Emery made the right decision in letting Danny Ings go and keeping Watkins. And as you say, and Tim Sherwood and Dion Dublin pointed it out as well at the weekend on the match coverage, that Watkins is doing less running. He isn't battling with defenders as much down the channels or in the middle. He's telling people where he wants the ball. He's running onto it. He's getting his shots off. Maybe the less running he's doing means that he's less tired and he's able to be a little bit more accurate. I know that sounds daft, but the goals, he's scoring lots of different types of goals. The third one at the weekend, where it came across and it was a split-second shot as well into the corner. The second one was fantastic, how he held the ball up, span on a sixpence and scored. So, I mean, from looking at him and looking at the best players in the league at the moment, form-wise, Ollie Watkins, he's got to be right up there with Erling Haaland, as we know, and one of the players of the month. Alex Moreno, it's no surprise that Alex Moreno had more passes and more touches of the ball than anybody else in the game on Sunday. He's a real outlet, and if we can do the same on the right wing, if that's what Emery wants with the two midfielders sitting in a bit deeper, then next season it will just be so unpredictable as to how we're going to attack. And let me tell you this, as soon as Alex Moreno scores his first goal at Villa Park, that place will erupt and he will become a cult hero. And you feel sorry for Luca Din. I think Luca Din could be just as effective in this Emery system with the right coach and with the right training. He's a very good left back. He doesn't have the pace that Moreno has to get forward, but he has the delivery from set pieces, as we know. So it'd be interesting maybe one time to see them two together with Moreno a little bit further forward and Din behind. I'm sure there'll be horses for courses. But the other player that I wanted to point out, and it's as great as he's been playing recently, it's not John McGinn, because John McGinn has been exceptional. And, when you read what he's been saying about how fans were saying that he got rubbish and that he wasn't good enough, but he always believed in himself.
I always believed in him.
Well, yeah, you did. But he's right, he just needed somebody to have some faith in him and to say, I know you can do this. Go out there and do it. And this is exactly what I want you to do. Give him less instructions, but more purpose on the pitch. But the player for me, who arguably could be player of the season, Dougie Louise. Dougie Louise has been incredible in that central midfield. He's a proper number 8 now, really, isn't he? He'll get forward, he'll drop deep, he'll get on the ball, and he tends to always pick out the right passes, always open for passes as well. He can slide the ball in between the gaps. He's got a goal in him too, whether that's a tap in, a corner, or a long ranger. I think he's going under the radar quite a bit. I imagine the big boys might be looking at him, but I wouldn't swap him for anybody else at the moment. Him and Boubacar, him and Dendoncker, whoever it is in the centre of midfield, Dougie Louise has made himself one of the first names on that team sheet at the moment, in my opinion.
So do you remember when the only chance we had of scoring was a corner from Dougie Louise? That was our best chance of scoring. I'd say in terms of Louise, yeah, very good performance on Saturday. I think in terms of the way Emre set up is, well, we'll say 2 in the centre. I mean, you can argue in terms of there's a difference between when we're in possession and out of possession, but him alongside Camera or him alongside Dendoncker as he was on Saturday, it's a clear, simple tactical instruction of Camera or Dendoncker, you sit deeper, Louise, you go forward.
Yeah.
And you can see in terms of, you mentioned in terms of the attacking stats, in terms of passes, goals as well. I mean, some of them become a corner, admittedly, but his attacking contribution is a lot more pronounced this season because the system is now simpler, you could say. But I don't think as I was saying earlier, I don't think it's simpler in terms of easy. I think it's just in terms of a plan well executed on the training ground, well explained, well taught to the players. Previously, when we've had 3 in midfield, we've had discussions about, do you play Louise as the deeper midfielder? Do you put him to the, one to the left or the right? And there was a bit of movement in his positioning between Smith and Gerrard, depending, kind of what day of the week it was sometimes. But under Unai Emery, there's been a lot more consistency in Louise's role in the team and the expectations. And as you say, that has been demonstrated on the field. He is still a little bit inconsistent, I think, but when he is on form, then yes, certainly a very good player for us. And those inconsistent moments are becoming increasingly less. And I will say, Dendoncker, you mentioned, played Saturday, played 90 minutes. In the preview, I was not enamoured with the prospect of Dendoncker playing. But, I mean, I can't eat my literal hat because you have all the hats where you are, but I will eat my metaphorical hat in terms of, he had a good game Saturday, to be fair. Everybody did, really. I mean, I can't think of a player you'd say was terrible. I mean, in terms, Ramsey, when the game's higher energy, kind of higher energy, we were on the front foot. That's perfect for him. I mean, in terms of took his goal really well. I mean, he almost took his first goal too well, because the chance he had a couple of minutes later, I think he thought, all I got to do is touch it and it goes in. And I think he got a bit overexcited and it kind of went with a bit more oomph than it should have done. But, excellent performance from him again. Yeah, all over the pitch. And I think in terms of, there's always a counterbalance in terms of reporting. When one team plays brilliantly, it must be, because the other team was crap. Sometimes that does happen, but I think in terms of, we mentioned in the preview, Newcastle were a team in form going into this game, so it wasn't as though we took advantage of a team on on a terrible slight and players not. I mean, you see in terms of some of the tweets from Newcastle players before the game, Callum Wilson in particular, demonstrated their confidence at getting 3 points from Villa Park. And I think this was a performance whereby, you could say Newcastle didn't turn up, didn't play very well. I think that was because we imposed themselves on them and did not give them a chance to get out of first gear. I think it was, you know, and you're trying to say in terms of, I've seen performances where, well, because it's an nadir of Villa's season, or you could say the point of where things began to get better because of what happened shortly afterwards. Villa Fulham, that was a performance from Villa which was terrible. I mean, Fulham did what they needed to do, but almost literally, as soon as we walked on the pitch and the ref blew his whistle at Fulham, it's, what are we doing? This is dreadful. Newcastle were not like that on Saturday. We went at them and we smashed them. And yeah, when we put the pressure on them, yeah, they're making mistakes and not playing very well. But that was because we did not give them a chance. And you mentioned it in terms of the crowd, really up for it, you know, in terms of a real atmosphere, feeds on the players feed on the crowd, all those elements. And yeah, it had that rocking atmosphere, which we haven't, we have had, you know, on occasion over the last 15 years, you know, big games we've had during that period, cup games, really playoff games, whereby, you know, the atmosphere has really been up there. But I think in terms of the performance on Saturday and the way it was, we played a team higher than us in the table, who we mentioned had only lost 3 games, had the best defensive record. We're on a run of games of 5 wins in a row, and we absolutely smashed them. I think in terms of, regardless of what happens the rest of the season, whether we do qualify for Europe or not, it's the first time, I'd say, coming up to 15 years, the end of the O'Neill days, where watch a Villa team and go, God, we're actually good here. We're actually a good team again for a long time. And, you know, it's difficult, you know, you don't want to get too caught up in the emotion and kind of that. But I think that was a performance where, you know, we talked about it before. It's like, oh, yeah, we've been in a good run of form, but we haven't been playing anybody any good. So, you know, first of the big test, what's going to happen? And it was the best performance of the season, I think, comfortably. Demonstrates that we have arrived again. I don't know quite where we've arrived yet, but, you know, or you could say we've departed from that. Yeah, we're just not any. We're just a bit. You know, we're not. We're something now, and we're building something. And Saturday was the sweet 16 of us being back.
It's exciting. It's exciting times, though. I don't agree with the narrative of we haven't played anybody good yet. Newcastle was our biggest test, but, you know, Chelsea, they've been poor, very poor this season, but they're a good team. Tottenham Hotspur are a good team. Man United are a good team, and Brighton are as well this season, and we've beaten all of them. The only real time where under Emery where you think, oh well, we haven't played very well there, was probably that first half against Manchester City, where they blew us away and scored the 3 goals. But it's definitely exciting, and it's definitely worth, you know, every now and again, once a week, watching those clips on YouTube of Stan Collymore curling in the famous quarter-final goal against Atletico Madrid, and wondering just whether Ollie Watkins will be able to do the same next year. We've been fantastic, and as fantastic as Newcastle have been, and all the praise is behind them, and they have done very well. You know, I mean, it's a shame that the fire brigade weren't around for them at the weekend, obviously. Eddie Howe has done brilliantly, and rightly has his name mentioned as a candidate for manager of the year. But surely Unai Emery's name has to be in that conversation as well. I'm not saying that he'll win it, but I can't think of too many managers who have done better than him really this season over the period of time that they've been managing their teams. You know, Arteta's done very well, but I think if they finish second, then that's a massive underachievement after the points lead that they had. If Man City win it, obviously Pep gets talked about because he's managed to claw it back. Eddie Howe, yeah, done very well as well. Frank, the Zebra, you would have said Marco Silva until recently, maybe. I mean, Roy Hodgson's going to get it because of the 20 points at the end of the season. But Unai Emery, apart from being a candidate for manager of the season, I think only Erling Haaland rivals him as signing of the season, for two very different reasons. But I mean, I don't think either of us expected Unai Emery to be this good this quickly. It is very much like the Martin O'Neill days, and hopefully that can continue on Saturday. But yeah, it's just exciting. I've lost for words. I'm lost for words as to how exciting it is at the moment being a Villa fan, and you see who we're linked with. Chukwueze at Villarreal. We're linked with Lee Kang-in at Mallorca. We've been linked with, and this is the poll that you referred to earlier, Kyle Walker-Peters of Southampton, decent player. We've said that before. Yeah. And Kyle Walker, former Villa loanee, who Sheffield United have also got interest in, and apparently doesn't fit into the Manchester City starting lineup at the moment because of the 3-2-4-1 formation that they play. I mean, I put it out there because I thought it'd be funny because of the names. Kyle Walker or Kyle Walker-Peters, would you take one of them in the summer? And if you were to, which one would you take? I mean, the fans have said Kyle Walker, but that was 51% to 49% in the votes.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I would, if I had to take one, and I'm not.
I'd take Peter.
Yeah, I'm not convinced I would take either. But if I had to pick one, I'd take Walker-Peters.
Yeah.
Because I would say, as well as Ashley Young has done this season, Matty Cash, I would say, is the number one right back at the club. Walker-Peters is younger. I mean, admittedly, I don't think we'd be able to sell it to him. You're going to come to be backup. But looking at it behind closed doors, him as a backup, I think him and Cash together, that's a decent combo. Walker, I think the slight, in terms of wages and age, concern me a little in terms of would he even be first choice right back? And we've, as time recording, and we'll see what the summer does, we've got a reserve fullback on the other flank being paid quite a lot of money because he was bought to be first choice at the time. Would you want two reserve fullbacks on a lot of money? I'm not convinced you would, which is why I probably wouldn't go Walker. But Kyle Walker he's still a very good player. I think in terms of, you mentioned Sheffield United, if they get promoted, Sheffield United, then yeah, that's a nice, that's a nice move kind of for all round if they can do a deal on the wages. But no, in terms of, if I was making my proverbial short list of players, I probably wouldn't have had either on there. But for one, I would take, if I had to choose, Walker-Peters.
I mean, to pick up on something that you said there, and not to criticise, but I suppose it's the mindset that we've been in for a while now, and we're still very much hopeful at the moment in regards to what the end of the season will bring. But are we doing ourselves a disservice to say that someone's going to be back up? Or do we tempt them with, well, you're going to get plenty of games because Thursday nights under the lights at Villa Park, we're going to be in a European competition. That'd be appealing. I think that.
Yeah, I suppose that then takes you to a different. I mean, I should say fundamentally, I say backup because I would put Matty Cash better than both of them. So yeah, that's why I'd say backup. And then you go on to the question of, will we play our first choice Thursday, Sunday? Which, if we have the decision of we're going to play kind of a few, what I'll call reserve players in inverted commas on Thursday, then yeah, I agree with you there. If we qualify for Europe, we can say, look, yeah, you might not play every week in the league. You're going to get the opportunity, but Thursday night, we cup games because we've got more games, bigger squad, you will play. If that is the plan and we sell it, then yes, I do see the point. In terms of if we're looking at the old school, it is an old school approach, I suppose, 1970s style of you play every week if you can stand up, and even if you can't stand up, you play anyway until, you don't get carted off because there's no stretchers in those days. So you got to make your own way off the field, even if you got 6 broken legs. Then, yeah, it's I see your point. But yeah, I mean, just going back to award season. in terms of Emery. And I agree with you in terms of, I think it depends on, who wins the league, where we come in, the final standings. But what I would say, regardless of where Villa come in the league and regardless of where everything else, our American friends in the NFL have awards at the end of their seasons, like MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, etc. But one award they do have, which I think, regardless of what happens in the league, Emre would walk hands down if this award existed over here, which it doesn't. But if it did, comeback of the year. And that's given to the player. I think it can be given to a coach. But yeah, in terms of, somebody who's, the massive impact from this season as opposed to a previous season, whatever reason, they may be coming back from injury, maybe form, whatever it may be. But he would be a lock-in for this award that doesn't exist. But he would definitely be a lock-in for it. Comeback of the year, Unai Emery.
I don't know. I think we've got a few people who could challenge for that. You think about the way that things started for Tyrone Mings. That's not bad. He's done well. John McGinn, your own little boy over there. Wally Watkins to Ollie Watkins. But no, I see what you're saying. Emery was very unfairly treated at Arsenal. He did fantastic there. The winning or undefeated runs that they went on, 22 matches, the number of points they got. They don't realise. He was a victim of circumstance coming straight after Wenger, wasn't he, really? But they don't realise how good they could have had it. But fair play. Mikel Arteta's come in. He's doing well. He's challenging for the league. But if they had Unai, they'd have won it by now.
No, I mean, it's difficult being the guy after the guy. And that's what Emre was. I mean, they got to cup final, well, at least one cup final. And I think it was the Europa League final where they got hammered by Chelsea. I think if that, it's a bit weird, especially from with supporting a club we've been to cup finals but haven't won one since '96. But if they would have lost the game by less, it would have been seen as so close, an heroic failure type thing. I think it was the fact the scoreline was so stark, it almost threw out the fact that they'd reached a final in Europe. And it was just, oh God, it was terrible. It was rubbish. And it's like, well, hang on. The amount of teams you beat to get there shows, and also Emre's record in the competition with Sevilla demonstrates he does know what he's doing in this competition. Yeah, bad day. You can analyse what happened in the game and what could have been improved. But yeah, the scoreline overshadowed the journey. For Arsenal now, the journey potentially is going to overshadow the end, because in terms of, I mean, you check out our predictor league, our predictor episode. As a spoiler, neither of us think Arsenal are going to win the league this season. And so if Arsenal don't win the league this season, listen to us, because all our predictions are excellent. But I don't think people will be then saying this Arsenal team are rubbish and Arteta's rubbish and that they're jokers and all that. They'll be saying, oh man, this is a team on the up. What a great job Arteta's done. So it's kind of flipped a bit in that situation. But, Arsenal have did what they needed to do. Worked out for us. So thank you, Arsenal. Moving on from the giddy heights of eulogising Saint Unai, we do have to bring matters slightly down to earth, or it's going to be like a plane getting off the runway. We're going to be going skyward, because now we are going to the preview of Saturday's upcoming game at what used in old money Griffin Park, no longer Griffin Park anymore. But we are going to see Brentford, another team on the hit list of teams in and around Villa in the table, battling for European football. And I think it's fair to say that, similar to the Newcastle preview, what we're going to say about Brentford is probably a bit different to what we may have said a few weeks ago. but in an opposite way to Newcastle, who were coming into the game on a brilliant run of form. Brentford have kind of gone the other way a little bit in recent weeks and have began to fall off the pace in terms of their European ambitions, aspirations. At time of recording, 9th in the Premier League, without a win in 5 games, having lost the last 3. Lost away at Wolves on Saturday just gone, lost at home to Newcastle the week before, away at United, drew 3-3 away at Brighton, which at the time was seen as that's maybe not quite a European playoff at that point, but they're the teams most likely to perhaps snatch 6th and 7th, and they drew at home to Leicester before then. So very simple in terms of analysis. We apply Will's law, 3-0 Brentford. Away we go, isn't it? But what are you, on a more serious note, what are your thoughts about Brentford?
Well, first of all, you can't see this, but there's a shelf over there, and that's where WF's law currently is. On the
available in all good bookshops.
I was looking as well at how they've done recently, and of course they've got the 1 goal in those 3 defeats, and that was from a set piece. It was the Ivan Toney penalty. Of course, he missed a penalty in that match as well. And if you see the video, apparently the wind blew the ball just before he kicked it while he was looking at the keeper. So maybe it was an awful penalty anyway, wasn't it, really? Let's be honest. I think the main damage, though, was done against Brighton. When you really analyse that, the fact that they were beating Brighton, and then in the 96th minute of the game, Alexi McAllister goes and bangs that penalty into the top corner to draw 3-3. Yep. If they'd beaten Brighton, they'd have had the wind in their sails. They'd have been riding high going into United, Newcastle and Wolves, all of which are tough games considering the league placings of those 3 teams. It can't be denied that Brentford have had a fantastic season, considering the players that they've got, because none of them really are household names apart from Ivan Toney. You look at who they brought in the summer, and those players aren't really getting a look in. Hickey, Damsgaard, Ben Mee's probably playing more matches than anybody else. They've obviously released the news in the last couple of days that Pontus Jansson is leaving the club to go and join Malmo FF, double F, whatever you want to call them.
WF.
At the end of the season. They've had a great year. They've done very well since they've come up. They're everything that you want from a Premier League team in terms of their attacking, their desire to win. Thomas Frank, I know you speak very highly of. You wanted him as Villa manager when we got Steven Gerrard. You probably did as well after Steven Gerrard had gone.
I think this is with the biggest dollop of 2020 hindsight. He wouldn't have done a worse job than Gerrard.
Oh, no, he wouldn't have.
But no, I like him. And as you say, I like Brentford in terms of, as you say, they're a team. As in, they're not, as you say, they're not a team of household names, but they have a system. They've got a good coach. You can tell they're well drilled. And, Ben Mee, you mentioned, came in on a free transfer, I think,
he did.
The summer. And yeah, they've done well. And in terms of, the point you make in respect to the Brighton game being a big turning point, I agree. In terms of the way that game went as well, in pointless stats 101, would you like to hazard a guess how many shots Brighton had in that game?
Oh, do you know? No, I don't, because Brighton tend to have about 30 shots per game at the moment. So I imagine West Ham, they had about 40 odd, didn't they? They probably had about 20. You
were close with where you were going. 33 shots they had against Brentford. So I'm going to say, so in old parlance, so in old parlance, it would be known as, if Brighton wouldn't have scored that goal in the last minute and lost 3-2, it would have been known as you've just got football managered in terms of Brentford. They they had more than 3 shots themselves. But, that getting a result when the other team are kind of throwing everything at you can build momentum just as much as a result where you hammer the opposition. Because, it's like, yeah, we got out of there, the result, great, showed determination, got real stuck in, let's keep it going. So, yeah, I do agree in terms of a massive, well, psychological effect on them, in terms of the following games, mentioned earlier, they've lost a lot in terms of, United are a good team, Newcastle are a good team, unless they play Villa. Wolves, they've had some decent results under their new manager, and you'd think at time recording they're going to stay up, you suspect. But yeah, I think in terms of Brentford, very good season. You could say similar to Fulham in terms of 2/3 of the season, very good. Now they've done enough to stay up. Maybe, that next level. Fulham, we mentioned, and we probably will mention again when we do the preview episode, their season turned on probably 2 minutes of madness at Old Trafford in the FA Cup. So Fulham's was more stark. But yeah, in terms of staying up comfortably, I think in terms of the way, kind of the gap between kind of the top half and the bottom half of the table, you would suspect. Palace might win every game, under Hodgson, but you suspect Palace, even with Brentford tailing off at the end of the season, they're going to come no lower than 11th or 12th, worst case scenario. You'd suspect on the way the table is in the moment, which good, decent, perfectly acceptable, something to build on.
Better than we thought.
Yeah, so really they're the winners all along. But I'd say in terms of trying to put some stats to the story, their home record this season, they're 8th in the home form table with 27 points from 15 games, 29 goals scored, 16 conceded. As an aside, Villa are 7th, having played a game more, with 29 points, 2 games more. So their home form is decent. I think it's fair to say. But better team home than away, as demonstrated by events in the reverse fixture where Villa swept them aside in the first 15 minutes. Were 3 up in the goodbye Gerrard game, as it will not be known by anybody. But yeah, so a decent team, especially at home. Bit of a bad run of form. Still got some good players. I think we can sum our Brentford analysis up like that. But moving on to a team we know a little better, in theory, Aston Villa. We've talked in terms of the Newcastle game, the tactical way in which we were set up against Newcastle, the performance of some of the players. Do you anticipate there is going to be any change to the game plan on Saturday? Or is it going to be, let's roll it out again, let's keep the momentum going?
The game plan itself will probably change quite a bit to counteract that Brentford attacking threat that they've got, through Whistler and Tony, more so than anybody else. But I think the personnel will be the same. I don't think you can drop Dendoncker after the last game. And if you do, it's only really for Boubacar Kamara or Leon Bailey. Bailey is a starter for Emery, whether all Villa fans like it or not. Kamara, the same.
Yep.
I don't see Coutinho coming back into the team straight away, though I do think that Coutinho could thrive in this team under Unai Emery, providing he sticks with us and doesn't move on elsewhere. So, yeah, it'd be silly to change the defence at the moment, even with Matty Cash coming back. There's no point in risking him. We've still got a lot of big games coming up towards the end of the season. Ashley Young has been getting tired and has been picking up a couple of knocks, dead legs, whatever, in the last few games. So Cashy can always come on towards the end if he's fit, and we've seen him in the photos on Twitter on the exercise bike. So hopefully his return is near. Emi Martinez obviously picks himself. John McGinn picks himself at the moment. Dougie Luiz does. Jacob Ramsey, the way that he's playing and the way that we could set up against Brentford, being a little bit more on the counter, will suit McGinn and Ramsey from an attacking point of view and just driving forward with that purpose. Emi Buendia, if he's not creating things, he's getting stuck in and he's putting himself about. So either way, he gets a place. And, well, you're not going to drop Ollie Watkins at the moment either, are you? You know, he's doing okay.
He'll do.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about Brentford to know how they'll play, but I know enough about us and Emery at the moment, and I think he'll just go with that momentum. We're obviously on the right sort of upward curve. I know it might still be a bit soon to mention that phrase, but we're doing enough. We've got the belief in the players. The players have got the belief in themselves and in the coach and in one another. So go out there, play with those same 11 again, and take the game to them. I mean, you look at Newcastle the other day. He made changes really, really late on, didn't he? Substitution wise, he's obviously got faith in those players. So why not go for the same again?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say in terms of if Camera's fit, because he is a sizable upgrade over Dendoncker, I would play Camera if he's fit. Cash, I'd be tempted more to go for your point in terms of looking at who Villa have got next. Fulham at home. So defensively, in a game where you have to expect Brentford, you know, they're going to come forward at us. They're going to put us under pressure. Keeping a stable defence, especially one in which I think we've only conceded like one goal in open play in like 8 games or something like that. So, yeah, even if Cash is a near 100% fit, I would keep Young in for Saturday. But if Cash is 100% fit for Fulham, I'd play him against Fulham because I think in terms of that would be a game to get him back up to speed for the run-in. As you say, he will be needed for that. So, yeah, for Saturday, I'd keep the same defence. Camera, if he is 100% fit, I'd play him. If he's not 100% fit, yeah, we bring him off the bench. And I think in terms of Coutinho, yeah, I think he's got a contribution this season off the bench. And, you know, a half hour, he could, you know, only takes a moment of magic, couple of moments of magic. I think just because of the way the team has stepped up, really, in his absence. And I've seen criticism of Coutinho whilst he's been injured. You know, you can't do anything when you're on the, you know, the injury list. You know, in terms of he hasn't become a worse player since he's been injured. It's, you know, he had some moments and then he just got injured at the worst possible time for him in terms of trying to establish himself in this Villa team. And I think in terms of, I don't think it's anything that's he's done in the last month or so. I think the team just stepped up. And so I would, on that basis, I would be surprised to see him back in the team, even when he's fit. But I think that's just testament to the way the other players have stepped up. I mean, there may be a tactical plan where you play 2 number 10s, where you play him with Buendia maybe in a game. But apart from that situation, which the teams we've got left to play, I'd struggle to see a team where you do that against. Wolves maybe at a push. But yeah, I mean, I think a sign, you know, saying earlier, we're on a team an upward trajectory. Coutinho, nothing bad to say in terms of what he's done over the Emre era. I think we just moved on, which I think is testament, as we were saying earlier in the show, to what Emre's done since he's been in and out. The players have stepped up. But yeah, I'd say apart from that team, partly because of injuries as well, you just try and keep the momentum going. And I think in terms of the away performances under Emre, you could see the improvement earlier. Now we're getting the home improvement, as we saw on Saturday. But away, the plan has been set for a while now in terms of the way we're going to play. So no, I agree. I don't anticipate there's going to be too much change in the way we approach it, and confidence is going to be sky high. But we say confidence is sky high, but is it high enough to predict an away win? Or for Will, is it high enough for him to go, I think, twice in the space of a couple of weeks to disregard Will's law, we've come to prediction time. What do you think we are going to be coming away from Saturday evening from Brentford, if anything? You could throw a curveball, could be a home win. Where are you going?
I've got these lovely glasses. You can't see them, and regardless of how well we're doing, they're claret and blue tinted. But I don't need these at the moment. They can go up on the shelf with Will's law, WF's law, whatever you want to call it. Because despite Brentford's bad run of form, I have complete and utter blind faith in Unai Emery.
Best type of faith.
Well, it's not even blind faith,
Nope.
is it? It's complete faith in Unai Emery. The only way, I mean, I could see them scoring against us. Ivan Toney, he's a big threat and that. But I'm going to go and say that Brentford are going to be helping out the Midlands community at the community stadium. Brentford 0, Ollie Watkins 2, Aston Villa 2. 2-0 Villa, Ollie Watkins at the double for only the second time this season. He's on form. Make sure you're voting for him on the FIFA Team of the Year as well. We want to see him as a FIFA Team of the Year card. How beautiful would that be? 2-0 Villa for me, and carry on marching up that table ahead of the Fulham game.
Yep. In terms of, you've disregarded Will's law, and what usually gets thrown at me at this show is negative Baz, bringing things back down to a lower level of optimism than you generally. And up until Saturday, I would have had this game down as a draw, a score draw. I would have gone 1-1 before Saturday. It's just that day for throwing what you know out of the window, because I'm disregarding what was never known as Baz's law. I'm going for an away win. I'm going Brentford 1, Villa 2.
Oh, negative Baz letting a goal in.
But I'm going for a late winner, or a second half winner. Yeah, we're going to do it. Yeah. The train has left the station. We're heading towards Optimismville. Yep. So,
I thought you were going to say we're heading towards Optimus Prime for a minute, and I was really getting excited.
To be fair, can you imagine you've got Optimus Prime up front? I mean, him playing off Watkins.
I'll be down there every week. I'm more about Rod and Rodimus Prime, to be honest with you. He was always the best. If you know, you know. True TF fans. Yes, 1986 Boonfy. Thank you very much.
Yep. But what you all know is that if you want to see and be kept up to date with the prime Villa news, then our Twitter page at Talk Trinity is the place to be. Transformers may or may not be there, but what will be there? Previews, reviews, polls, everything you need to know about what's going on at Villa Park and, well, outside of Villa Park if it affects Villa. Maybe some film reviews, we'll see. But in terms of audio episodes, past, present, and future, you can go and check out our audio providers, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. We're also on FanHub. If you've been, want to check it out, or you've already checked it out, our visual delights, then you can go to our YouTube channel where all of the Talk of the Trinity episodes are there for your viewing pleasure. But before I pass you over to my co-host, Mr. Trinity, for his final thoughts, I do hope that your viewing pleasure will be increased on Saturday, however you watch the game, by seeing Villa take away 3 points and continuing our excellent run of form. Thank you very much for listening, watching, subscribing, liking, tweeting, retweeting, however you're engaging. It's going to be, whatever happens, it's going to be a good one run to the end of the season. We'll be back with you again soon. Cheers for now.
Yep. Cheers. Thank you very much for listening, watching, taste. No, you can't taste. Well, you could eat your phone if you wanted to. It is always a pleasure, as you know, and this run of form that we're on at the moment is mesmerising. We will be hoping that we are optimistic prime at the weekend still. And in the words of that big red and blue hunk of lorry metal, one shall stand, one shall fall. Let's just hope that it's the Villa that are transforming their fortune still and carrying on up the lead. Yes, they'll be like a hot rod straight up to those Champions League places. Dare we dream? Who knows? I mean, if you think Liverpool are going to finish there, then we could as well.
Yep. Unai knows.
Cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. He's Villa till he dies and ZFC till he dies. I'm Villa till I die. Cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.